Hi guys, what's up? My name is David and welcome back to my channel. So thank you for the love on my previous video and the hello to all the new people that came here because of it. So recently I also made a Q&A video where I asked you guys to comment things you'd like to know from me, and there was this one comment that I wanted to go into detail. So it said, are you planning on eventually becoming a university professor of Scandinavian studies? Where are you going to work on your master's degree? What are your dreams for the future? So I wanted to talk about this comment because I get questions like this a lot, and I wanted to just talk about like what exactly I do and why right now as a bachelor student I still feel like I can make content regarding Viking Age related topics and stuff. So first of all, what I do right now, I am a third year student of Scandinavian Studies at the University of Amsterdam, and I will soon apply for the master's program Viking and Medieval Norse Studies at Högskolan Islands in Reykjavik. So I have gotten other questions, but from a more negative viewpoint, asking me like, why should I listen to someone who only is a student and doesn't even have a bachelor's degree yet? Like, what makes you feel that you are good enough to talk about this stuff? So first of all, I want to say, like, as a person who is actively still in the process of learning, of becoming an academic, I feel like I am closer to someone who is not at university, who is not planning to, or not yet becoming someone who wants to do research. Because my knowledge is not only up to date in the sense of recent, but also up to date in the sense of it's still fresh in my own memory, which means that I can actively talk about the things that I'm actively learning and not things that I have read 30 years ago. So while my experience might not be as long, it is very recent, which makes it very easy to talk about topics that I am actively engaged in at the moment. But also, I don't think you need a university degree in order to be knowledgeable about the topic, in the sense that, you know, books exist and there are forums where academic papers are available. So just because I don't have a degree yet doesn't mean that I have less knowledge per se. Like, I study Scandinavian studies and I chose this specific bachelor's program because I wanted to do the master's in Viking and Medieval Norse Studies, and this modern Scandinavian program had one subject called the World of the Vikings, and I hoped to learn more about the Vikings in that subject. But I already had a lot of knowledge about the Viking Age because I read stuff and I listened to the Nordic Mythology podcast, where experts from the field are invited to talk about their topics. And I visited Scandinavia. I went to the national museums in Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. I went to Viking related things, so I already had a lot of knowledge. And when it came to this one tiny subject, I actually didn't learn anything new. Sure, I now had officially learned it and I could officially take an exam on it, but it wasn't new information. It's more about learning where to find information and learning how to process this information or write a paper about it or do research about it than actual knowledge acquisition. It's learning how to acquire knowledge and not always just getting new information. And sure, it depends on the subject, it depends on who you are. Maybe you don't have any knowledge about this subject before starting this course, then for you this will be new, but not for someone who was already engaged in the topic anyway from their own personal interests. So this is why I feel like I can talk about this, not only because I am now actually getting this university level knowledge and expertise on these topics, but because I would have known them anyway. Sure, I absolutely agree with people who believe that someone who has more expertise, experience, knowledge in the Viking Age would be a more trustworthy source to listen to. But I feel like voices that are not necessarily an academic yet also deserve to be listened to, and the perspective of young people is just as relevant. You know, we bring new ideas, new perspectives into the field that people who have been working with them for 20, 30, 40 years maybe just didn't consider yet, because they were taught things in different older ways, which is not necessarily better or worse, it's just different, and multi-perspectivity is always great to have in a field. But returning to the comment asking me, like, do I want to become a Scandinavian studies professor? No, absolutely not. So I chose Scandinavian studies, which focuses on modern Scandinavia and mostly the linguistic part of it. Like, my major is Swedish language and history. But as I said, I chose this bachelor to be able to do the master's program, which is Viking and Medieval Norse Studies. And that doesn't mean that I don't like this study. That is absolutely not true. I am also very interested in modern aspects of Scandinavia. I went on exchange to Stockholm University, and so I have lived in modern Scandinavia, and that would not have been possible if I didn't do this program. And I've also learned to speak Swedish pretty much fluently and understand Norwegian and Danish. I've learned a lot about later non-Viking Age history of Scandinavia, which puts the knowledge I had on the Viking Age in a broader historical context. I was able to interact with people who were interested in Scandinavia for different reasons than I am, so that was also great. But again, I wouldn't want to work with Scandinavian studies. I only chose that to be able to go further and more specific into Viking Age related studies. So the question was, like, where do I want to do my master's program? Well, I will be applying to the program Viking and Medieval Norse Studies in Reykjavik on Iceland, and it's a master's that is in collaboration with Oslo University and I think also Copenhagen University and Aarhus University in Norway and in Denmark. And I want to do my first year in Reykjavik because that is obligatory, and then my second year in Oslo if I can, because I like the subjects that are presented there. And after my master's, I will probably continue and find a PhD position because I want to continue researching this. And while I have this channel, so it would be reasonable to think that I would like to become a teacher, I would like to convey my knowledge. I don't think a regular teacher/professor job would be right for me because I don't like public speaking at all. I started this channel as a sort of coping mechanism with my social anxiety, and it has worked, but it's still a problem. And I have a lot of presentations coming up in this upcoming month, and I'm like scared to even think about it. So I mean, maybe later, if I have more knowledge and feel more secure in what I have to say, then I would consider becoming a teacher. But I would rather work in something that is conveying knowledge in a different way. For example, work in a museum, work on how artifacts are presented and how displays are labeled. Like, what do we want people to know about this? What do we want them to think about it? How do we want to make it interactive and make people feel included? But if I would be given a position as a teacher of something Viking related, like, I don't know, like runology or Old Norse religion, then I would probably consider doing that. But for now, I'm in my third year of my bachelor, so I'm hoping that during my master's I will find something to focus on even more specifically and work on that, and then we'll see what life brings, I guess. I don't want to say now what I want to be doing in like 5 years. Sure, I have to have ideas, I have to have a plan for the future, but I also want to enjoy my life. And if I decide that, you know what, I don't want to do my PhD anymore, I'm done with studying, then I will accept my own choice. For now, I don't think that will happen, but if it does, it wouldn't make me feel like any less valid or able to continue, for example, what I'm doing here. Like, I don't need to have a PhD for that, but it would definitely help if I want to present myself as more trustworthy, reliable, experienced. But again, I am in my third year of my bachelor's. I am 19 years old. I am allowed not to have that much experience yet. I'm still working on it, which is why I want to take you guys with me while I am in this process and not afterwards. I want to present the most new knowledge, insights, and just like experiences of me as a young person in this academic world. So I hope you guys will stick with me through this process and learn something new, as I also learn a lot of new things. Like, I am currently following a subject on gender and religion, and it's like super interesting, and a lot of topics that we are covering now are topics that I have already covered on my channel. So it's funny how my life is just like one semi-coherent whole of things that fit with each other. And yeah, that's why I feel like I, as a bachelor student, am just as able to have a Viking related channel as someone like Jackson Crawford, who is much more experienced but has different views on different things. And that doesn't make my views incorrect or his views incorrect. It's just different. We live in different contexts, and that's fine, because you exist in a context in all in which you live, and all that came before you. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.